What is up, my nerd? Nerdy Pete here, wishing you long life and prosperity. In case you were curious about what the Supreme Court has been up to lately, I just thought I'd read a couple of things from this Reuters article that I came across. U.S. Supreme Court expands its emergency docket and Trump's power too. So I'm like, wait, expanded it more? He already can break the law without any threat of consequences, as long as it's for his job. So I had to take a read of it, and I don't want to read the whole thing. It's not too long, but it's long. I will put the link to this article down below. Definitely check it out and read the whole thing. They have that little summary at the top. Trump has tested the limits of U.S. presidential powers. He has won most of the cases decided on emergency basis. The Supreme Court has backed Trump, at least in part, in 21 of 23 cases. It has taken 6 different paths in deciding these cases. In other words, it's not just doing what it normally does, and the justices all consider the cases the way they normally do, with great deliberation, taking weeks or months even. They're just doing it willy-nilly. More from the article here. The court, which has a 6-3 conservative majority, allowed Trump to withhold $4 billion in foreign aid despite a judge's, this is a lower court's ruling, decision that he cannot simply not spend funds appropriated by Congress. In other words, Congress voted for this, so it's got to happen, and the president can't stop it from happening, which makes sense to me. The emergency docket, with its scant briefing and lack of oral arguments, Kagan wrote in a dissent, was not appropriate for yet another high-stakes decision from the top U.S. judicial body given the quote-unquote uncharted territory of the dispute. In other words, what Kagan was saying was, this isn't right. The Supreme Court is not behaving the way they should be. And in fact, she goes on, and the article goes on, typically, Kagan wrote, we will decide the cases of far less import with far more process and reflection, close quote. When the justices start their new 9-month term on Monday, they will assess their regular cases over months before issuing definitive rulings, the article says. Since Trump returned to office on January 20th, the court has acted in 23 cases on an emergency basis involving his policies, or siding with him fully or partially 21 times, with one case declared moot, which I assume just means they're not going to bother with it. What do I know? I'm just a nerd who collects toys and finds joy in them. It's just an example of what I was talking about in my last Nerdy for Democracy video about how Congress and the Supreme Court, 2 branches of government that are supposed to check the third branch, the executive branch, are really failing. Welcome to the new America. It sucks. You gotta laugh, right? Thank you so much for watching. You'll see me again soon with more Nerdy for Democracy stuff. And until then, good night and good luck.